Welcome to Lot 76 Cars and the E46 Compact, the hatchback that joined the range in 2001, some years after production started. The trademark front lights and bonnet design are something that divides opinion, but in this silver grey colour seem, to my eye at least, very attractive. The side view really shows the huge glass area and the very thin A, B and even C pillars by today's standards. Turning to the rear of the car, you can see the trademark lights. These were changed from the original Lexus looking design on facelift cars to this particular design. This car is fitted with the standard alloy wheels and it's an ES derivative. Looking down the side of the car towards the back, we can see the trademark rear spoiler, and we can also see this car was fitted with standard park distance control, which was an option at the time but standard on the ES grade. Opening the boot via the release on the remote control gives you access to a huge loading space that BMW said at the time would accommodate even a full-size washing machine. There is also a handy pouch under the parcel shelf and in some models an umbrella holder. Looking under the boot floor, you can see the location for the battery, the tools and also the release for the spare wheel, which is actually fitted underneath the vehicle and not inboard in this instance. Upon removing the parcel shelf, you can see the load area is pretty big, but in actual fact you've got access to a 60-40 split rear seat. Now when you fold that seat down, you can see the huge amount of space that's liberated, and it really makes this car very practical in the BMW E46 lineup, second only probably to the Touring model. One handy item to find in the boot area is a 12-volt socket located on one side, which is really useful for powering items like fridges, for example, and a bit of a surprise, to be honest with you. On entering the vehicle, you can see that the driver's seat benefits from a full range of controls, and in this ES model has a height adjustment as well. On entering the vehicle, it's at this point we can really see the quality differences over its predecessor, the E36. The soft touch dashboard is present in the vehicle, along with a passenger airbag and in fact also a driver's airbag. There is a CD player which was fitted as standard, and the overall look and feel of the dashboard is in a different league to its predecessor. And we've got the manual air conditioning there. And also the vehicle was fitted with DSC stability control. Here's the M Sport gear knob and also the chunky M Sport steering wheel. Room in the rear of the car is more than acceptable, and passengers have not only got space to move, but they've actually got good vision all round. One handy feature in this vehicle is that it's got Isofix child seat fittings as standard. In addition to this, the rear windows actually also open as well. The map pockets are fitted, similar to many German cars of this period, and also there is some stowage space for the rear seat passengers, or probably used as an ashtray in the past. Looking under the bonnet, we can start and see how these underbonnet layouts have evolved. There's the underbonnet hood pad, and you can see a lot more plastic fairings and covers than you would have done on the E30, for example. This is the 316 Ti the engine is in fact 1800cc, but as I'll explain later, there were a number of petrol engine choices and even one diesel fitted. From January 2001, onboard diagnostic ports, or OBD ports, were made standard for gasoline vehicles in Europe. This enables you to interrogate the car's systems remotely and to identify faults, and in some cases even to enable other features. We can see the controls for the lights to the right hand side of the steering wheel, and in addition this car is fitted with a standard alarm system, so when the alarm is actually activated, the red light under the rear view mirror actually flashes, which is an unusual feature. So at this point, let's take the vehicle out on the road, put it through its paces and see how it drives. This vehicle had one of the shortest production runs of any mainstream BMW, being produced from just 2001 to 2004. It was preceded by the E46 Compact and succeeded by the BMW 1 Series, which was launched in 2004, taking over from this car. This particular car is a run-out ES model, which fitted neatly between the base and SE grades, and brought with it items like manual air conditioning, an M Sport steering wheel, M Sport gear lever and 16-inch alloy wheels, for example, all of which are well worth having. This particular example dates from October 2004 and is one of the run-out ES models that I referred to earlier. Although it's a 17-year-old vehicle, this particular example has covered a barely unbelievable 19,500 miles from new. So actually it drives pretty much as it would have left the factory all those years ago. Whilst the E46 Compact was a mix of parts from the E36 and in fact the older E30, particularly the rear suspension, the E36 was thoroughly engineered from the beginning and benefits from a multi-link suspension. The wheelbase on the E36 Compact is exactly the same as the standard E36, but the body itself is shorter by 21 centimetres. Three engines made up the range: the 316i, which is this car, the 318 Ti and the 325 petrol, and there was also a 320 diesel. Confusingly, this is about the time when BMW started to separate the badging from the actual engine sizes. So this 316 is actually an 1800cc engine, and the 318 Ti is a 2 litre. The 2.5 is in fact a 2.5, and the 320D is in fact a 2 litre diesel. One of the first things you notice about this car is, despite the fact it has just 115 brake horsepower, it actually feels relatively brisk. 0 to 60 times were just over 10 seconds, but it actually doesn't feel like that. It feels much quicker. One of the things that helps is the engine revs really freely, and it does feel extremely nippy. Not quick, but certainly it does seem nippy. And overtaking is not a chore with this. It's actually a nice car to change gear in. It's a good, positive 5-speed gearbox, and as I mentioned earlier, it benefits from the M Sport leather gear lever, and in fact the steering wheel itself is a really thick steering wheel. Feels good in the hands, and the steering itself is actually very positive. Noise levels are good for a car of this age, and it certainly doesn't feel its age in terms of noise, vibration and harshness, and pretty much can stand up with cars from
from the current time in terms of NVH. This vehicle benefits from the later N46 engine. The N42 4-cylinder engine apparently was a little bit more problematic. Generally, whilst the 6-cylinder diesel and petrol are favoured, clearly those going the 6-cylinder diesel route may have future issues in terms of ultra low emission zones, or potentially entering those cities that unfortunately have already started to or indicated they'll ban diesels. Probably the optimum car in this range would be a petrol derivative, and probably a petrol 325i. This has got 192 brake horsepower. This car, in a car of this size, means that it should be pretty dynamic, pretty exciting to drive, pretty quick. That said, this 1.8 litre 316 Ti is actually a really surprising car and doesn't lack power in any way. In terms of handling, it's a good compromise of ride and handling in this car. The handling itself is really good, really positive. The car benefits, as I mentioned earlier, from the E46 standard multi-link suspension. Steering feel is good, and certainly from what I understand, the steering rack on this car was actually more sensitive and improved over the standard E46 steering rack, not forgetting that this car came several years into the standard E46 saloon's life. As you turn into a bend, the car feels really positive. There's a lot of good feedback through the wheel, helped obviously by this thick M Sport steering wheel. And certainly, whilst ride is good, as I've mentioned before, the car doesn't feel that it actually rolls that much. One of the other things worth mentioning of this vehicle is that the E46 Compact does not appear, certainly from the reports, to have the same levels of rust issues that the E46 saloon had, particularly around the rear wheel arches. I'm not quite sure why that is, but if anybody has got any evidence to support that, I'd be interested if you put that in the comments, please. And if you want to operate things like air conditioning, there is no touch screen to delve or menu. You simply turn the button. The manual air conditioning on a warm day like today is actually very effective, and to some extent it enables you to regulate this to your own taste more easily than climate control, which potentially would be cutting in and out according to the temperature setting. Noise levels on these B roads are still down to a pretty good level, even compared with A roads, and it's quite impressive for a car this age. One other positive point in its favour is that vision all round is really good in this hatchback version of the E46, and compared with some of the thick C-pillars of more modern cars, in actual fact that they're relatively slim by current standards.
Is the BMW E46 Compact a modern classic? Possibly it is. It was built on a relatively short production run of only 3 years. Pricing of used vehicles ranges from just a few £100 to £5,000 in the UK will buy you a pretty good example. There is a readily supply of parts available from the vehicles that are being broken for spares. So yes, if you want a modern classic you can use every day, it's one you should consider. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to Lot 76 Cars, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Thank you.